Well, hello there to all the good people of Ohio and beyond. This is Aaron Knapp, and you're tuned into Unplugged, broadcasting without permission. This is a place where the truth gets louder and we dig deeper, and where we always remember be lawful, not awful. If you want the full stories, the documents, the videos, and everything they don't want you to see, head on over to Aaron Knapp Unplugged.com, my new home for every investigation, every episode, and every update. And while you're here, be sure to like the video, follow the page, and hit subscribe, and share this with someone who needs the truth. We're building something real here. We're building something fearless, and we're doing it together. Welcome to Unplugged. Let's kick this thing off.
Plug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polish decoys. Broadcasting without permission. We don't ask. We lift the curtain and we drop the mask. Unplug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polish decoys. Broadcasting without permission. We don't ask. We lift the curtain and we drop the mask. Unplug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polish decoys. Broadcasting without permission. We don't ask. We lift the curtain and we drop the mask. Unplug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polish decoys. Broadcasting without permission. We don't ask. We lift the curtain and we drop the mask.
All right, guys. Good evening there, Lorain, Ohio, and beyond. Sorry about that. I had a few little glitches going on, and I had Buckeye Firearms messaging me. Um, Apparently, there's some difficulty locating the case number online, so maybe you might want to check that out again for me and get back to me. But they were looking for it for the gun case. Anyway, tonight's going to be all about the Lorraine Shadow Council and the live stream war. That's right, folks. It's about Monday night's meeting and kind of the craziness that went down there, and the fact that they were basically talking about me most of the night, if not Garen, the Jones brothers, or my attorney, without ever saying our names, which is just friggin' insane. I'm just gonna say that. Like, they're out there and they're like literally talking about us. And I know you are. Of course you are. So the bottom line is, tonight's episode really is going to be about two rooms, right? Two governments, one culture. One side of it, you got Lorraine City Council. They're sitting in front of their own live stream on December 8th, and they're debating whether they want the public to see what they do. All right. Then on the other side, you got Lorraine County government quietly rewriting who can give legal advice, who controls the records, who gets to decide which cases move forward, and who's allowed to question, well, pretty much any of it. The craziness is just beyond me at this point. That being said, the common thread on all of this is simple. When official power feels threatened by the sunlight, it looks for a way to shut the blinds. So we're going to start here tonight in the city chambers with the 88 timeline, the live stream debate, and we're going to move on up to the ladder to the county, to the shadow council, to the unauthorized legal advice, to gatekeeping and prosecutions, to a civil division that seems a little bit more interested in defending secrecy than it does actually following the law. And by the end, I'm hoping we're going to tie it all together in one simple, ugly conclusion. That this is not a series of accidents, folks. It's a system of accidents. So, in our first act, we're going to talk about the December 8th meeting. So that was when live streaming became a threat, apparently, to them. Sorry. So the December 8th meeting, Lorraine City Council, was framed as a discussion about live streaming, the technical side, the cost, the quality, the glitches. But it quickly kind of morphed into something a little more obtuse. it became a conversation more about how much of the government we get to see. How much of the government the people of Lorain are still going to be allowed to see at the end of the day. Councilman Demakia, he leaned on, like, he basically said that the old clerk had done the live streaming during COVID. It had never been really approved through city council. So technically it's optional, live streaming. So the framing is transparency itself as a feature that council can kind of like toggle on or off at their convenience. Now, Tony didn't argue that it was wise to keep it. He argued that they weren't even required to or anything, right? It was pretty much nonchalantly saying it's a non-issue. Whatever we decide to do doesn't matter because it's not an authorized rule or a decision that was ever made. It was just done. So at that point, you got Pam Carter, another councilwoman, who she repeated that logic, right? I believe it was a quote coming something from the audit. Actually, no, she was talking about the cost. So she was talking about, the cost is, is it worth it? It's costing us all this money to do this and the old system. And if we're in a budget crisis, well, why are we in a budget crisis? Anyway, but later, the Chronicle Telegram, Clarissa, actually went to the auditor and talked to somebody and found out from the auditor's own mouth that it was like $6,600 a year to maintain the live stream. Which, come on, guys, that's like nothing. Like, all right, for instance, $6,600 to maintain the live stream. They spent $10,000, $5,000 on McCann's lawyer to fight me, $5,000 on Levesque's lawyer. So, I mean, $6,600, y'all can't, $29,000 they're spending to fight more on Middlebrooks' pension and things, right? But they gave McCann his, no problem. Like, so what's the mentality that's on display here? It doesn't feel like it's what serves the public, right? More like, what can we get away with? And then as good as we get to, as good as we always get to the scapegoating, right? So in the midst of all of this, Mary Springowski is talking about as if there's some sort of growing concern or widespread belief that live stream was manipulated. Look, she's always talking about, like, I know who you're talking about. Like, you're always talking about one person because he's always the one that's suggesting that when it buffers that you guys are saying something or maybe we didn't see something. But, everyone in the chamber knows the truth. It's not about a movement unless you're talking about a bowel movement. There wasn't a coalition long before, there wasn't like a line of citizens that were talking about this, right? There's just one person, right? Just one guy. One resident, hard of hearing, listen to me. One litigant, one critic. Garen Petty. She couldn't say his name out loud, right? But there's only one person that makes conspiracy theories about the buffering. I get it. Okay, listen. Do I think they're doing stuff during the buffering? No. Because if we logically think when I feel like I think that in fact, I'm pretty sure I know that the next day when the audio file is downloaded, it's the audio file. Like, even if it's buffering, it's whatever was on the video. Will be there without the buffering then. The buffering only happens during live stream because it's the Wi-Fi, it's the internet. They could fix that just by fixing their internet. Anyway, that has nothing to do with their sound system, their video system, anything. The buffering that they go through, that's because they have shitty internet. Okay, maybe get some bright speeds, some I don't know, some of that digital fiber shit in there, and then maybe your shit would work better. Or maybe get I don't know, Dave Comer some help because it takes him like 8 months to fill a records request. The poor guy apparently is so old that he's been with the city so long that he owns the first city computer in his basement. But
instead of saying Garen's name out loud and dealing honestly with the fact that, he has legal claims and he does have a disability, he does have hard of hearing, they've inflated him into this vague, nameless problem, right? He's the boogeyman like me waiting behind the door. And that's a justification in their mind to cut the camera off because he, of all people, depends on that the most. They've done everything they can to keep him from wanting to come there. So now they want to take away that. And we're going to get a little bit more into what that really means as we go further into it. But they took a disabled resident's accessibility concerns and they're trying to convert him into some sort of exhibit A for, reducing transparency. Because he complains about, buffering. I could be like, but as council debated further, right, to keep whether they should keep the live stream or not, Councilman Nutt, he's on his way out, right? He's going to go be a state rep somewhere, at least try. And he really doesn't have a reason to pretend like he's even interested anymore. He's got like one more meeting, so he's at the end. And when they were talking about cell phones and devices, because I guess, because Riley got up and was really hammering him in this meeting. Like, kudos to Riley. I said in my article, like, I've had my differences with his office, but he really hammered it out that night. And he put them all on the spot. He told them about the using their own devices in meetings, and we've been harping on him about that. And I believe I'm going to get to that a little later, where Mary's going to go rogue. But offhand, when talking about that very issue, Dan Nutt just says, well, I guess it doesn't really matter if you eliminate the live stream. Wait, what? Let's hear that again. So I guess it doesn't really matter if you just eliminate the live stream. If you just eliminate the live stream. So that line doesn't really work the rest of the meeting. Like, it did the work that the rest of the meeting really wasn't trying to say out loud, or avoid, maybe they did, but it kind of meant if there's no live stream, nobody sees the phones, nobody sees the side conversations, the eye rolls, the distractions, the texting, the indifference, the Ray carry-ons. Did you say something? Did you say something? Did you say something? They don't have to deal with any of that stuff. They don't get to see it. They don't have to see it.
Down to all of our departments and assure that as part of our regular checklist that we have for many projects, that we can visit this. This is not a common area because we typically don't waive fees. So it's one of those areas that we'll revisit here as we move along.
Thank you, Mr. Carrion.
Say something? Then why aren't we? Say something? Then why are we? You want to get an attitude? You work for me, Carrion.
All right.
Yeah, get it.
Mr. Knapp.
Yeah, see, Mr. Knapp.
No, you're employed.
I'm always the problem. Yeah, I get it. It's fine. Listen, there's no live streams. We don't get to see any of that. We won't see Angel texting on two different phones. We won't see all these people doing it, right? For them, the issue was never bandwidth per se, even though it's their bandwidth for their live stream sucks ass. The issue is really it's visibility. They don't want to be seen. And why would they? They're doing some dirty stuff. The live stream doesn't threaten them because it fails or it buffers or it's annoying or the sound system doesn't always work. It threatens them because it works. When you go read my article, you see, like, I quoted them all, like, several of them stood up for it. Kempton stood up for it, and they were just like, take it away, what's going to happen? I mean, I still say, the part they don't really want to talk about really gets down to the ADA stuff that I sent them. Because this meeting didn't happen in a vacuum, right? Going back to that Ray thing, well, prior to that Ray thing, in September of 2024, last year, I had been standing up, stretching in council along the side of the mirror window area, or the windowed area out there, and I guess it bothered Joel. And so he just called me out randomly and was saying, anybody that's not a police officer, please sit down. What? Like, he started bossing me around. Well, in the military, like, look, you get tired, you stand up, you go to the back of the room, you go to the side of the room, you start to feel tight, stiff, whatever. That's what you do. That's the rule. And I just do that out of habit. So those chairs were hard. I was getting up, I was stretching. And this is why, honestly, it pained me to get rid of Antonio Baez, because he actually stood up for me and said, no, you don't get to talk to people like that. Like veterans, we, explained it all. So I had that moment and I totally forgot, because back then when it happened, my attorney was like, you need to address that. You need to call Jay Shore. And I did. Jay Shore is an ADA advocate, and he told me, and we talked then, I think, or at least we messaged, and I wrote a letter to council asking for accommodation. So Jay said, look, you can't just expect them to know. You got to let them know. So, okay. So even though I said, I've given them like my little disability thing from the VA, and he's like, yeah, it's not enough. You need to write this letter. So I wrote the letter. It was an ADA, compliance letter saying, hey, I need this, I need accommodation. Like, I want to sit on the end seats. I try to sit down towards the end. Now I just sit in the front because I don't want to sit in the back. I need ability to get up and move. And most of all, I need you not to yell at me. I don't react well to people just yelling at me. I don't know who really does. Everyone in here seems to think that because of who you see online, that you have, that I'm going to be some, I'm just your punching bag in public. And I'm not. Let's think about this. So you got a James McCann who totally talked crap about me. You got Lori Kowski who comes up to me in the grocery store and confronts me because she doesn't like what I'm saying online. Now the mayor of our city is talking shit about me in meetings. You got council people talking crap about me. Mary's insinuated that I would cause harm to her, that I said I was going to confront her, even though I've been near her multiple times, just like her buddy Tia did. Her little buddy Angel went out and told everybody I was racist and caused some weird pervy guy to come down by my house. But yeah, okay. Like, I'm the problem. All right, I got you. They just can't stand a little truth. But I gave them the letter. That covered me. I forgot. A year goes by, right? I didn't even think about it. But a year goes by, and I had submitted that ADA request. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't a Facebook post back then. It wasn't a shout in the hallway, right? It was a formal request for reasonable accommodation under Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, so I could safely and effectively participate in my own local government. I asked them to basically treat me with respect. My bad. I'm so fucking sorry. I asked for respect. My bad. Yeah. That's all I wrote in there. Was the main thing was give me, let me stand once in a while, and maybe give me some end seating, and don't yell at me. Stand or move as needed. The assurance that I wouldn't be confronted or escalated against for disability related movement and accessible seating that doesn't set off another chain of disorderly conduct fantasies, right? And they ignored it. They just straight up were like, yeah, fuck that guy, right? Like they always do. As they've been doing up until recently. They just ignored me. That's all they do. They don't give a shit until you become a real thorn on their side. Everyone's looking at my page now, I notice. Like they're all over it. So, but after some more confrontations happening there in City Hall and City Council, after being singled out by other people, being singled out by Tia, after being threatened, being treated as a problem, like to remove rather than a resident that they should have accommodated from the beginning, I sent them a formal ADA Title II violation notice on November 26th of 2025. That was, I think, 15 days ago. And they had 2 weeks to respond. Mayor Bradley did say he noticed it, that the city would respond in their whatever time. But the notice documented that they had failed to respond to my first notice, that they had failed to implement any of the accommodations that I had asked for. and that their pattern of retaliation and harm was causing me, distress. I sent it to him. The mayor acknowledged receiving it. They did nothing. 14 days later, they walked into that December 8th meeting, right? And they did one thing any competent fucking attorney would tell them not to do, right? Because Jack's a competent attorney, right? He's not the attorney that somehow let Amber Smith's mom, Brunish's mom, get thrown in jail, right? He's the competent attorney, right? He's not the one that somehow didn't get the bus mileage logs inputted in, right? No, but he's a competent attorney. He's, he didn't let an innocent woman go to jail, right? No, he's a competent attorney. And a competent attorney would have told you this. Don't double the fuck down. These motherfuckers joked. They mocked. They joked about devices, having their stupid devices out, which is illegal. Their own lawyer, literally, Riley's like, hey guys, Riley, again, I got to give it to you, bro. Like, I know I haven't always been your biggest fan. And again, I always tell people, you have to be able to give praise when praise is due. Riley smacked the shit out of Council on Monday night. He was like, listen, guys, I don't know how many times I got to tell you this shit. Like, he didn't say shit. But, bro, seriously, we're not going to do this anymore. Every time you do this, it does this, and this. And it creates possible liability for the city. This, and this, right? But they joked about it. And Mary said straight up, I'm going rogue. I'm going to go rogue. I don't care what the law says. I'm going to go rogue. So now we got to request her stupid tablet notes, which is going to be a pain in the butt for everybody to get off. I don't know why she's got to be so difficult. But they joked. They mocked residents who rely on the live stream, right? They recast accessibility as annoyance. They discussed with straight faces eliminating the one tool that allowed disabled residents to observe without being in the physical room. And there are a lot of them, and think about wintertime and all these things, right? They turned what should have been just a simple policy discussion into a retaliation performance. That's what it was. From an ADA perspective, it's not tension. It's not even personality conflict. It's political. It's not even political drama. It's classic retaliation sequence, right? Request, ignore, complain, escalate, retaliate. And then Bradley opened his mouth. This is the one that I listened to him speak the first time, and then the second time, and then the third time. And I even caught smidgens of it the other night at the one-sided Catholic Charities thing. But Bradley sure knows how to turn a ADA violation into evidence. That's all I can say. This guy who's arguably not been the kindest to me, but I haven't always been the kindest in speech to him. But again, I'm not a public official. He's such a contradictory individual, because on one hand he'll say, I told my daughter before, we have to take these things online, and just, the price of being in office, all that stuff. Maybe the fact he can't run again is wearing a little thin on him. Maybe the fact that I'm suing him personally, that I'm suing his predecessor, that I'm bashing, or his boy, Ray Carrion, because of all the dumb shit he did with McCann. And again, you can't take away the pictures of him and McCann with his hand on his arm. You can't take away the fact that Bradley left him in there even after the LGBTQ stuff, when McCann called Galinas gayliness and fairy socks. Bradley turned a blind eye as the city fell apart around him. And Mary projects herself as the savior, but she's no better. Instead of stepping up and trying to fill the shoes that maybe she wants to fill, she runs around throwing stones at everybody else, getting mad all the time. But when a citizen comes to them with an honest ADA violation and says, hey guys, look, I know I'm your biggest fan, right? I know you guys dislike me, but I did give you this a year ago. And now you're really mad, right? Because now you're like, he did give us this and we did do nothing. And now what did Ray do? Ray yelled at me. Okay, fine. I get it. You guys say it's no big deal. It is to me. I don't like it. I don't deserve it. I deserve to go to that meeting and not be spoken to by Ray Carrion, my ex-council person who betrayed me, sat on my fucking front porch, lied to my face, said he would set up meetings with McCann and all this shit. Hey, Ray, you said, don't go down this road. I'm still waiting on those meetings, bruh. Because you're a liar. Then you put your boy Baez in there, right? Oh. Now you got your boy Arroyo in there, right? Smoking cigars in the cop car. Come on, bro. That's a violation of the ORC. But whatever, right? You do you. So here comes Bradley. Doing something only Bradley could do. Talk about a person. Well, I mean, I can talk about a third person. But he's talking about in a speech, right? It wasn't really a mayor's speech. It was more of a closing argument in the wrong fucking courtroom. He got up and delivered a little homily on obedience, right? This dude was like, He said that the council president, Joel Arredondo, or whoever sits, pro tem, whatever, controls that chamber at all times. Even in recess, he said, even if the president tells him to sit, he sits like a dog. And he said, if the president tells him to stop talking, he stops talking. He presented this as the gold standard, the fucking gold standard of citizenship, right? Citizenship, good citizenship. Authority gives commands, and you good citizens obey. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Bradley, sir. And then, without naming me one fucking time, he described the specific behaviors covered by my very ADA accommodations. Standing, moving, shifting, not staying pinned to one seat, refusing to silently comply when unlawfully confronted. He didn't say ADA. He didn't say Aaron Knapp. He didn't say accommodation. But he described exactly what I requested, word for word, verbatim, right? Exactly what they punished me for. He didn't attack the concept. He attacked the person. He attacked a disability. That's your fucking mayor. He attacked a disability. And he did it after being served with a Title II notice twice. That's not leadership speech, folks. That's retaliation announcement. Sounds a lot like his chief. He transformed protected disability behavior into council-defined misbehavior and then tied it to sell the public you as it's some normal governance, right? Legally, what it is an ADA exhibit. ADA exhibit 1 or 2, no, 3, because the first one will be my first notice, the second will be my second notice, then that. But legally, it's an ADA exhibit. Politically, it's a confession on tape, on live stream. Yay! That's why we need the live stream, folks. Because the idea that the council president controls the room the way a judge controls a courtroom is not law. It's fantasy, folks. Under the Open Meetings Act, under the First Amendment law, under the ADA, and even under Robert's Rules itself, the public is not a subordinate army underneath the command of the chair, right? The way Bradley made it sound was like, you know, he controls everything. He controls what you do. You know, like when you get home tonight, you better not do nothing until he tells you to. You know, I mean, like, come on, bro. He's not in charge of everything. And yes, when there is a given in the rules of the city council that really says, yes, while city council's in session, he has these authorities. Once you don't and recess, you have no authority. But we all know who that's directed at too, right? Patrick Horn, all these people, they want to direct it at me. I'm the bad guy, only because I want to hold them to their own rules. The rules they want to change, by the way. The rules they want to take away videos so people can't see, so that you can't charge Ray Carrion with a crime for violating someone's rights and yelling at them. But hey, The only real question that night was, are they going to come right out and say it? Were they going to come right out and just say that the problem isn't order? It's Aaron fucking Knapp, right? It's Aaron C. Knapp, the guy they didn't want in council, the guy that they make such a big deal about, the guy everyone cries about, the guy Patrick Horn runs around and goes, Aaron, oh, Aaron is so scary. Oh, boo-hoo. Shut the fuck up. Like, how dare we exist in the same space without permission, right? Broadcasting without permission. And the answer for Bradley that he gave was, yeah. That's it. We're going to do it. All right. Listen, guys, this is a little bit that I'm going to take a quick break, play an ad. We're at the 30-minute mark. We're going to come back in 1 second. I'm going to talk about rules for council. Rules for thee, not for me. No, it's rules for me, not for thee. Rules for council are not rules for the public. They're not. They have zero effect on us. There's only one rule that does, and that's the disrupting a public meeting. We're going to get back to that in 1 second after a quick word from our sponsors. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll be right back. If you own a business and you want to reach customers right here in Lorain County and Vermilion, this is your opportunity, folks. Advertising space is now available in Lorain Daily, Vermilion Daily, and DNC Radio. That means your business can reach local readers, local listeners, and a highly engaged community audience. And here's a bonus. For a small add-on fee, your business will also be advertised once per episode on my podcast, Unplugged with Aaron Knapp, as long as your ad remains active on one of those two platforms. This is web exposure plus podcast exposure in one package. If you're interested in advertising, contact me now to reserve your spot through Facebook, email, or reach out directly. Ad space is limited and local visibility matters, folks. Alrighty. Thanks for sticking around for that little break, but we're going to get back in here and we're going to talk about how the rules for council are not the rules for the public. Now, let's just talk about the actual law for a second, right? Because Mr. Mayor Bradley, he's been out of practice for a little while, I guess, but his entire speech depends on you not knowing shit. He assumes that, like many of his clients in the past, you guys will just trust everything he says, you know, kind of like Nancy did. See what trust in him got Nancy. Anyway, I digress. So Robert's Rules of Order, they talk about this handbook, right, for how members of any deliberative body conduct business. I got one of them right here. Oops. So this is it. You know, it's pretty extensive. It's got, well, mine's tabbed out. Like, I could be her constitutionarian or whatever she wanted during that thing. Vegetarian, I don't know what it was. The bottom line is that Robert's Rules of Order is a handbook for how members are supposed to act. It governs who gets the floor, how motions are made, how, debate's going to be structured, how votes happen, how members behave towards each other. It does not create a behavioral code for spectators, right? This book is for them. It's under Robert's Rules. The public is not subject to any internal discipline rules unless they are formally participating and actually disrupting business. So understand that if you go up to the mic and you're called to the mic, yes, in that moment you're interacting with the body. And there were some other questions in this about what you do and don't have to say when you're interacting with the body. When I interact with the body, I'm officially part of the meeting. When they address me, when I address them, it goes in their official minutes. It goes in their record. Mr. Knapp stated this. Mr. Knapp stated that. They stated this. Whatever. But when I'm sitting in the gallery, I'm nobody. Just like everybody else in that gallery. We're all nobodies. The only people in that moment that matter to this book is that council. Those people sitting in those chairs are the only people that matter. Nobody else matters. We're not ever affected by this book as citizens. This is Mary's book. This is Joel's book. This is Tony's book. They are all affected by this, including their council rules. What do they say in council rules? On the very top, council rules. Doesn't say council and people, council and audience, council and Aaron, council and Garen, council and fee fi go the fuck fo fum whatever. It doesn't say any of that. It just says council rules. Rules for thee, not for me. I don't even need to know your dumb rules. All I need to know for me, my rules are the ORC, the Ohio Revised Code. And you duplicate that rule 47 from the Ohio Revised Code, word for word, verbatim. So as long as I'm not deliberately and intentionally disrupting your meeting with intent, then I'm not guilty of disrupting a meeting. That's honestly why I thought, I mean, what you went after Garen for wasn't disrupting a meeting, and you guys screwed that pooch all up. But with me, that was during a meeting. And there is case law to show that council people have been charged for disrupting a meeting when another council person is speaking to them, right? That's happened. And could I be charged with that legally? I mean, your rules of whatever are your rules. But Ohio Revised Code straight up says, like, I wouldn't need 2 warnings if I walked in there and threw paint all over everybody, right? Like, that wouldn't happen. But the internal discipline rules only are applied during participation. So when you sign your name up to speak, that's when. Otherwise, you don't even exist. The fact that I'm arguing right now because they put my name in their little minutes, right? The ones that they want to shorten. And I got them to shorten. All right, so for the October 21st, I first came in and said, you can't include anything that was done during the break, which is true. It was recess. They're not minutes. Nothing happened during the recess. And then they came back and they tried to add some other stuff, but then they added my stuff, but not Ray's. Now they've fundamentally altered the minutes. Like what Brianna did was she changed the minutes to something other than they were, and that's a violation of that. Oh yeah, that little thing, ORC, Ohio Revised Code, yeah. But is quietly standing there a problem? No. Moving because your body requires it? No. Leaning on a wall because of a medical condition? No. None of that is disorder. Under Ohio's Open Meetings Act, the public has a right to attend and observe. They can only be removed if they actually disrupt the meeting, meaning the meeting can't go on. And apparently it could go on when Tia Hilton came in and dropped a bunch of F-bombs on me and cursed me out from one side to the other. And Mary didn't say a goddamn thing. So the Sixth Circuit's already said this anyway. Annoyance is not disruption. Embarrassment is not disruption. And criticism is not disruption. Should I say that louder for you deaf people in the back? I'm kind of, my ears ringing. I got that, that tinnitus, the freedom ring. The Sixth Circuit has already repeated that annoyance is not disruption, embarrassment's not disruption, and nor is criticism disruption. So I can annoy you, I can embarrass you, or I can criticize you. I don't lose my First Amendment rights or my Americans with Disability Act rights because you guys are, or because I walked into this fucking council chamber. You guys aren't God. And neither is that building, neither is that area. Bradley acts like, he needs permission to go home and, he calls Joel to get permission to masturbate at home. I don't understand. Bradley's speech was not like reading a law. It wasn't even a correct reading of the council rules. He made it sound like it was some performance. Like he does call for stupid things. And I know that's not true. There's no way that he believes that Joel has authority over. I guarantee you he doesn't believe he has authority over him. There's no way. And Joel wouldn't tell him. That's the stupid thing about the example. Why would Joel tell him to sit down or to do anything? No, they tell me because they want to boss me around. They want control. They want power. And that's what Bradley did that night, right? I'm punching up at these people. and he put on a performance. It was a performance piece for hierarchy. It was a municipal cosplay. Mayor as judge, counsel, and court. The public as defendants, except in real life, you don't lose your civil rights when you walk into a meeting, folks. So when he described as how he would sit when told, sit, Ubu, sit, stop when told, good boy. What he really was describing is his own comfort with obedience, right? He's a good boy. He does what he's told. Good Mayor Bradley. Good boy. Who's a good boy? Like, you just like my dog over here. She does what she's told. Sit. Well, actually, I don't speak to her in English. I speak to her in Italian. Telling people like you bossing her around. But I see your frustration is that someone, for once, is not playing the role for you, right? I'm not going to be that. I'm not your dog. You're not going to boss me around. I'm a grown-ass man. You people work for me. As much as you don't want to admit it, you people work for us. I mean, and that's the bottom line. He wants to act like he doesn't work for us. He'll tell you to your face. Asking, I'm in a public area, bro.
Pretty soon what he's going to do is he's going to say that he can't continue with the meeting because you won't exit.
And that's not my problem. You work for me.
I don't work for you.
You do work for me. I pay taxes. You work for the city of Lorraine. No, there's no agree to disagree, Mayor. Mayor, there's no agree to disagree.
And what they're going to do is they'll just close the meeting.
Close the meeting down. I don't really care. You guys act like that's my problem. That's your problem, not mine. Okay? You need to stop acting the fool. Okay? Follow your rules. Not me. You follow your rules. Your rules say, your Robert's rules say, Ray, you address through the chair. But instead, you just yelled at me. A guy with a little bit of hair. Not the chair. Just saying, man. But I get it. My whisper to Garen really frustrated you because I said, why are we? I mean, but again, my comment doesn't matter. I'll go back up here. What I said was annoyance isn't disruption. Embarrassment is not disruption. Criticism is not disruption. You do not lose your First Amendment rights or your ADA rights because you're in a council chamber. I don't give a Riley, you better correct Jack because he's woefully misguided about this. What you guys have been doing in Ohio is not First Amendment. I mean, honestly, most of this law is new. I get it why he wouldn't know some of it. Some of it was in 21. If he has not been keeping up on his case law, he would not know these things. So when he speaks, however eloquently it is, and he speaks of the law that he knew 20, 30 years ago before he, became mayor and is whatever he is now. But he's wrong. And again, for those of you that would say, I mean, I can recall multiple times when all of you said that we were wrong about the phones, but yet Riley just said we were right. I mean, how many times did you say that about Garen? How many times did you guys bash him over that? And yet here's your law director saying it once and for all, it's illegal. I mean, we're not wrong. You're just mad that we're holding them accountable to their rules and you can't stand it because you don't have the fortitude to do it yourself. I'm not saying the people here, but I'm just saying some people. But that's why they keep coming after me is because I'm encouraging people. You guys can all do this. I got a whole bunch of forums you can do it with too. But the question becomes, why is all this energy aimed at me though? Why is Bradley focused on me? Why do my emails end up in the internal threads between McCann, Weitzel, and others? Why do my social medias get screenshotted, dissected, and weaponized? Why does my name appear in Tia Hilton's accusations, Lorraine Ritchie's writings, and council chatter? Long before I knew who any of these people were, Lorraine Ritchie was talking about me. I found emails on accident through the city that she was sending emails to McCann and other people, riling them about me. McCann was trying to get me in trouble. All of them. They even used the sheriff's department. You guys want to talk about somebody that got fucked over? They let people beat the living shit out of me and did nothing. And it's not because I'm wrong. It's because I'm right too fucking often. I beat them in public records litigation. I challenged their unconstitutional gun ordinance. I filed civil rights lawsuits. I documented their ADA violations. I forced them again and again to either follow the law or get dragged behind me. They're not reacting to chaos as you guys want to act, right? They're reacting to accountability like a baby, like a child. I mean, hey, go over and look at what's going on in Sheffield. Rocky Raddick and Graves. I bet you Graves fucking retires, okay? He should. What they're trying to pull over there is bullshit. I don't have my disagreements with Aiden, but he got elected, folks, and the Supreme Court's already ruled in Ohio that felons, once adjudicated, once they've done their time, once they've been, done, they're done. Rocky looks like a little baby, and now everybody in Ohio is looking at it. But that's the thing. They're not reacting to chaos. They're reacting to accountability. Someone rolls along, John Burrow, whatever, for whatever reason, he's going to bring you accountability, and you don't like it, you're going to throw a fit. Same thing with Aiden. I mean, and I know we all have our differences of opinion, and we have our differences of opinion with Aiden and others, but they were who was elected. And when somebody has been, 90 to 100% correct every time they ring the bell, this guy, come on. And I'm not on your payroll, not under your control, and I'm not willing to accept that quiet backroom deal to stop, that's when I become the problem. Not just because of what I say, but because of what I can prove, right? And that's all across the board. How did I go from being Hall's boy to whatever I am now in the doghouse? I mean, he wouldn't talk to me forever, and then he called me to tell me he was recording a call with me. He was mad that Tia said she had some audio file of us on a podcast together, when in reality it was just a recording of me talking and him in the background on the phone, and you couldn't even hear him. You could only hear me. So, I mean, again, whatever she thought she had nothing. But he records my call, and then, I don't hear from him again until I see him at court the day that he's there subpoenaed by Tia and the prosecuting attorney. So I kick all their asses that day and I leave. I'm done with that. But still, they just can't accept it because of what I know. And I've been throwing it out there. And the thing is, they're scared of how much more I know. Oh, and I do know a lot more. Somebody's got a hard drive. And I got lots of them. And I got lots of these. And they're stashed all over the place. I like M drives. They're nice. Do you know they make these things in like 1 terabyte now? Like, that's amazing. So, yeah, I keep my evidence close to heart. They know what I have that is the only thing that's probably keeping me out of jail right now. But the rest of the stuff I can leak as I see fit, and it's just building the mythology. So let's play games. But the transition on this one isn't just City Hall, right? If the story just stopped at City Hall, it would be bad enough. But it really doesn't, folks. It's because the Lorain City Council, the way they handle their live streaming and ADA complaints and criticism, it's not an outlier. It's an echo. Echo. The same culture exists up the street at the Lorain County Administration Building. The same culture exists in the sheriff's office. That same culture exists in the civil division of the prosecutor's office and in the criminal division. It looks like this, folks. Use the law when it protects you. Ignore the law when it constrains you. Invent authority when you don't have it. And punish the people who notice. That brings us to the shadow council, folks. Like, they're wanting to hide. And when official counsel isn't enough, Ohio law is very clear. Under RC 309.09a, not counsel, shadow counsel, meaning, sorry, I should be more clear on this because we're switching over from counsel to counsel. And I mean, counsel as councilmen or counsel as in lawyer. So we're talking about Yes, the Dan Pettycourt thing. So Dan Pettycourt, he sent an email that he wasn't supposed to send, and Jeff did too. And so now that we'll get to that here. So Ohio law is pretty clear about this. Under RC 309.09A, Section A, the county prosecutor is the legal advisor for the Board of County Commissioners and the Board of Elections and all other county offices and boards. It also says clearly no county officer may employ any other counsel or attorney at the expense of the county, except as provided in Section 305.14 of the revised code. That means that basically in those instances, it's like when Stamidi asks for an outside counsel because maybe they can't be represented by the prosecuting attorney, whatever that may be, however that looks. And the county can do that. They can authorize it. They're just not supposed to authorize Tom Williams' lawyer to be their lawyer too. But that's another story for another day. But if the county office wants legal advice, it must go through the prosecutor. It's got to go through Lee Prue. God, that's another story for another day. But or court-approved alternate counsel under RC 305.14. Period. That's it. No. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not go to Nietzsche over at, the sheriff's department. Don't go to Dan Pettycourt over at Family Court Services. Don't call up Aaron and ask him for legal advice when he can't give it. The reason's simple, though. It's centralized, right? Accountable, lawful advice. No secret lawyers, no private shadow operators, no unofficial fixers bending public power off the books. And that's what's been happening. In Lorain County, that responsibility sits squarely with people like Chief Civil Counsel Lee Prue, the official civil lawyer for the commissioners and the sheriff in many matters, anything civil. But what's written on paper and what happens in practice are two different things. Because in Lorain County now, we have a pattern of these shadow counsels that are just floating around. Everyone's got their own lawyer. Nietzsche's out there telling people, I'll sue anybody that comes after my sheriff. And down here where we live, we don't do those sort of things. But hey, people who are not designated legal advisors are acting as if they are. And that's a problem. The first example is Dan Pettycourt. So, once upon a time, Daniel Pettycourt was a legitimate assistant prosecutor. And that authority ended when he left the prosecutor's office and he moved into a shiny new role that was gifted to him all the way over at the administrative job of Job and Family Services, a place where he makes more than most everyone else, including the people who collect child support and handle all of your data. He's some sort of I don't know what. It's a nice job though. I think it pays like $80,000. Although in these emails that we talk about, he was like complaining that his boss makes more, or he makes more than his subordinate makes more than he does. I don't even know why he has a subordinate, but anyway, I digress. We all know I have a history with Mr. Pettycourt. Not a biggest fan of this guy. He's got to be one of the most inattentive lawyers who gives the worst advice of anyone I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen his advice. It was the same guy that told the prosecutor, the commissioners to withhold my paperwork. He's the same guy that was involved in the Battistelli settlement. This guy's got his fingers in and all over everything. Like, this guy is everywhere. He's like he's like a fat kid in a jelly jar, man. Everything he touches, you're going to be able to trace. You'll be like, oh, look, yep, there he went. Oh, there. So after that, no public authority. He had no public authority to give anything after he went to that job. After he left the prosecutor's office, he was in an administrative role. Right? He can't give legal opinions to the Board of Commissioners. So yet on April 25th of 2025, that's exactly what he did. Commissioner Jeff Riddell went to Pettycourt for legal guidance on a board resolution that would reshuffle power inside the county government, stripping responsibilities from the county administrator and consolidating them under a new deputy administrator role. Now, I could read you the whole thing, but it's boring. The bottom line is there was a no-no email, and a no-no email that was sent from a no-no email person to a no-no email person. They're allowed to talk and be like, hey, man, How's it going, Jeff? How you been lately? Not too bad, Dan. How you been? I don't know. It's kind of boring over here at Job and Family Services. I make a lot of money and I eat a lot of food and do a lot of nothing. But that's it. How about you, Jeff? Oh, I don't know. I like to just ride out to the checkpoint and get hammered every night by mid-afternoon and then just go about my way. But hey, you know me. While we're talking though, could you just maybe tell me how I could figure out a way to hide everyone's salaries from each other? Because we keep having to post that shit online and all the employees are getting really mad because they find out like people make more money than them and it makes them angry. And then Dan goes on to say, yeah, man, listen, hey, my subordinate makes more than me, and so makes more than so and so makes more than so and so. So then it becomes this gripe bitch session, right? But then Dan goes on to tell him how there's no real way around it. Like he could do this or this, but if he does this, this would happen. If he does this, he could do it, but he'd have to do this, this, and this. And then finally at the very end of this long-winded fucking email, he says maybe you could ask Lee or Dennis for advice. You mean the people he should have been talking to begin with? Yeah, that'd be a good call, I think. But hey, what would I know? It's just a law, right? Fuck it. So he has this whole conversation, and the conversation also revolves around them hiring an assistant administrator who would take over all this role, and then they would be able to use that role somehow to hide the salaries from everyone. I don't know. It sounds like a dick measuring contest to me that a bunch of guys with little dicks were measuring, and in the end, it was just going to be a very small contest. But you strip those responsibilities away from the county administrator, consolidate them all under this new deputy administrator role. I bet you that was going to be Arville. They gave her the HR role instead. But Riddell didn't go through the prosecutor's office. He did. He reached out to Dan Petticourt, the new, the administrator over at Job and Family Services. Not Dan Petticourt, the prosecutor, because that version's gone. He no longer exists. And Dan Petticourt didn't say, hey, I can't advise you, right? He should have. He could have said, I can't advise you. Instead, he edited language, flagged parts as legally vulnerable, and then suggested alternatives. That's legal analysis, folks. It's legal advice. And under RC 309.09 and RC 4705.07, it ain't allowed. Once Petticourt left the prosecutor's office, he had zero authority left to be that guy. Continuing to function as that guy is unauthorized practice of law. Riddell knew, or at least should have known, that you cannot have former prosecutors hiding inside the building like permanent informal legal advisors to powerful officials. That's exactly why the statutes were written to prevent this. And it's like you keep them in a closet. All right, dust off Dan. We need some sneaky shit done. And then when a resolution was reshaping power inside the county and it gets built on this unauthorized legal advice, the entire thing sits on shaky legitimacy. Because the public expects and is legitimately entitled to expect and demand that legal guardrails protecting the use of public power is real. In this case, they were totally fucking bypassed. I wrote about this in detail on November 8th, right? In my piece, The Shadow Council, How Legal Authority is Being Rewritten Behind Closed Doors in Lorain County. Now, hold that date in your mind, all right? November 8th. We're coming back to it. Because in our next act, we're going to talk about Nietzsche. So when a private lawyer becomes an unsworn gatekeeper, that's our second counsel. That's our second shadow counselor. It's Anthony Nietzsche. And he's not in the prosecutor's office. He's not in the county civil lawyer. He's not the sheriff's designated legal counsel under RC 309.09. That's Lee Peru. Yet in practice, he functions as if he's all of those things. After supporting Hall publicly throughout the election process, as I did, Nietzsche began acting as the sheriff's go-to legal interpreter, making records decisions because he's now their records guy, speaking on legal questions, which he has, including Marcy's Law, and even telling citizens that they can't and cannot have, what they cannot and can have under Marcy's Law and under RC 149.43. When I requested records involving my interactions with Tia Hilton, the denial did not come from the prosecutor's office as it should have. It did not come from a records custodian bound by Public Records Act. Nope, it came from Nietzsche. He told me Marcy's Law prohibited the release. There was no active investigation at that point, just justified that claim. The legal basis was so shaky at best that it was invented at worst. And when the dispute reached the Ohio Court of Claims, the justification changed, right? Then suddenly the prosecutor's office abandoned the whole Marsy's Law thing and was like, oh, like we have a different rule now, no, but under 149.43, you can't do that. If you deny records, you must state the specific legal authority at the time of the denial. You don't get to swap in and out for a new theory once you're challenged. That's not transparency. That's moving the goalposts. And that's what's behind moving, that's why moving these, goalposts is a structural problem. Nietzsche was not the public's lawyer. He's not the county's lawyer. He's acting as shadow counsel for the sheriff's office. It's not improper, folks. It's just illegal. Because under RC 4705.07, it may be the unauthorized practice of law as well. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to unauthorizedly practice law. But under RC 2921.44, when public officials knowingly rely on that, it begins to look like neglect of duty or worse. And again, I'm just asking. These are valid questions. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a county official. I'm not an attorney general. What I am is a guy who does investigations and digs deep into these things. And when I read these books and I read these legal books back here and I read Robert's Rules and I read these RCs and I translate them into what they're doing, it sure doesn't look that. And then I go and I read the AG's decisions. Yes, I read all these things. I'm boring as shit. I sit right here all the time. But hey, you can't have a private attorney position himself as a gatekeeper for what cases get referred and what records get released and what legal positions the county takes, all without any statutory appointment. I mean, literally stuff was getting sent to Nietzsche before it was going to the prosecutor. My stuff went to Nietzsche before it went to Omerta. It's written in the reports. That's exactly what happened. And the civil division, this pattern matters when transparency becomes the enemy, folks. So we're going to get to our third piece here, which is the civil division. I'm going to take a quick break, get another 7-Up. I'll be right back. In the meantime, please enjoy, another little ad from our sponsor.
Here at Unplugged with Aaron Knapp, we like to thank our sponsors. We have a few unofficial sponsors tonight, and they are definitely not paid sponsorships. I want to throw out there a big thank you to Joseph Jones and Eric Jones of the Lorraine Daily and the Vermilion Daily. They have a local news page. You should check them out. They do plenty of great work broadcasting all the news that is the news that you want to have in Lorain and Lorain County. So check them out. Also, please, if you need any legal services, feel free to reach out to Robert Gargas. You can find him listed online. He's a fine attorney and comes highly recommended by yours truly. And last but not least, I want to mention DNC Radio. Please make sure you check out one of the up-and-coming internet hip-hop stations and all of their shows. They put on a lot of shows. You have the Never Outdone show. You also have the Eric Bowen show, Speak Up, Speak Out. So please make sure you guys check them out as well if you're looking for your latest and up-to-date hip-hop artistry. Thank you for tuning in. This has been a non-paid sponsorship brought to you by Unplugged. Aaron.
All right, guys, that brings us back to our next and hopefully, I believe, final section. We're going to talk about the civil division of the prosecutor's office, specifically Chief Counsel Lee Prue. Now, on paper, her job's pretty straightforward, right? Advise county officials on how to follow the law. That's it. Like, she sits in these meetings. She advises the commissioner. She advises the sheriff. She advises everyone. And she tells them how to follow the law. She tells them how to, maintain on public records. She's supposed to be able to, avert conflicts and compliance. In practice, though, what we've really watched from her is a pattern of where public records were treated as a threat, right? To neutralize, not a duty to fulfill as she has. In multiple exchanges, Ms. Prue has claimed that the email systems
lack the capability to distinguish privilege versus non-privilege, invoke privilege in broad, vague terms without citing specific statutory exemptions. She shifted justifications midstream when our initial basis was challenged. And Ohio law doesn't allow that. The Public Records Act presumes openness. The burden is on the government to prove an exemption. The exemption must be specific. Non-exempt portions must be released. When you can cite Marcy's Law at the denial stage, then abandon it in mediation, and then adopt a different justification, what you're telling the public without saying it is, well, we don't actually have a stable legal reason, right? We're just trying to keep this from you. Okay. Then we get to that Mauricio, habeas corpus case, right? On my affidavit, I'm a licensed social worker. Like one of those things back there says it. I got a number, everything. I'm a mandated reporter. I'm a professional bound by a statutory ethics. Now, instead of responding to the evidence that I provided, or that was provided, I should say, Prue filed a motion to strike my statement, right? Basically suggesting that the affidavit should not even be considered credible. So I'm a fucking liar now? All right, I'm only always right, but hey, no proof that statement was ever anything was false. No counter documents, no conflicting testimony, just strike it. We don't want the court to believe this because we don't like who wrote it. That's lead proof for you. For a government lawyer to attack the credibility of a sworn affidavit that way without evidence edges into professional ethics territory under rules of conduct 3.3 and 8.4. I did tell Tony this one day when he was yelling at me and hanging up on me, and he said he was unaware of it, would look into it. I sent him evidence on it, but he's not going to do shit. So if you're going to imply that a sworn statement is unreliable, you better have some facts. And Lee didn't. And then after all of that, when the pressure built up, the solution wasn't an adjudication on the merits, right? It was to quietly release James and then declare all pending motions moot. All this under a certain judge's jurisdiction, Mihawk, who really got some friggin' issues. But hey, these ethical issues, unaddressed. The misuse of exemptions, she's done, unaddressed. Motion to strike my affidavit that I sent to Tony, unfucking addressed, right? They all just evaporated. They don't give a shit. They don't care about people's reputations. They care about themselves. Tony thinks he can get on the phone and speak to me like I'm a dog. Just like apparently Mayor Bradley does, just like Joel does. We're not your fucking dogs, guys. Okay? You don't tell us what to do. You're not our jailers. You're not our prisons. You're not keeping us in prison. We're not in your control. You work for us. The record doesn't evaporate. The emails don't evaporate. The filings don't evaporate. These patterns will never evaporate. That's why I wrote Shadow Counsel the way I did. Not as a measured, single issue rant, but as a structural indictment of the system. All of these different lawyers laid together, right? So, hey. And this is where it really gets to be on the nose. So I published the Shadow Counsel, how legal counsel or authority is being rewritten behind closed doors. And I did it in November 8th, 2025, like I said. Before I get to that, I'm just going to say what I laid out, but I'm going to say myself and one of my sources were working on getting these from Lee Prue for a very long time. It took us the whole summer. We were asking for the PSS, the personnel salary sheets, and she didn't want to give them because of the reasons we got. But in that, we also asked for all the emails between Jeff and Petticourt. Now, don't ask us how we knew to ask for those, because I'll never tell. But we knew. And when they finally sent them, they were doozies. Now, mind you, my source that sent this and always sends these things out to everybody when he does it. Or she, or it, or they, whatever pronoun they use. I don't know, because I only know them by an email. But they send it to all of the newspaper agencies, right? But on this one, they went on for a while and no one was paying attention. When we finally got it, it was because I stepped in. I was watching my source struggle with getting them from Lee. And Lee and I had tangled quite a few times at that point I'm getting CC'd in on this and CC'd on this and CC'd on this. And finally, I just stepped in and said, listen, now I'm asking. Then suddenly they showed up. So I get the PSS and I open up the emails and I'm like, oh, shit. This guy screwed up. That's why they want me to have it. So thank you to my source for helping me get that. And then I laid it out in the story. Petticourt's unauthorized legal advice, right? Nietzsche's gatekeeping, Peru's shifting records theories, the structural conflict that's been built into this entire setup. About a month later, almost to the day, 31 days, I think it was, the Chronicle runs a story on Petticourt, giving advice to who? Jeff Friedel. After the same records, the same timeline, same email chain had already been in my piece. They got there eventually, a month after I did. A month and a day. Better late than never, I guess. Nobody's forced to say where they got the idea, right? Nobody does. You don't have to say where you got the idea. You don't have to say it. Timeline speaks for itself, folks. That's the story of Lorain County media, though. And power all in one small little anecdote. When you're the one guy with a Substack or a website or, a video camera who live streams everything and puts it all together and takes the time to actually give you detailed investigations, you're a conspiracy theory, a freak, a loose cannon, a weirdo. You're not a journalist, that's for sure. Not with your 200,000, hits on your Facebook page, or, I could get into all the other numbers out there, but hey, fine, whatever. You're just conspiracy theorists. But when you're a major paper like the Chronicle and you say the same thing a month later, it's suddenly breaking fucking news. Really? So when I said it was conspiracy, but when they say it, it's like, oh my God, Dave O'Brien wrote something. Fuck off. This is the same bunch of jackasses that sent me a cease and desist for using a fucking picture, and I had to threaten them with a slap lawsuit. I don't care that they used the story. But when they worked with Mark Puentes, they said, as initially reported by Mark Puentes, the least they could have done was throw me a bone, but we didn't know they ain't going to do that ever. I sent them at least a letter to the editor, asked them to print my letter to the editor. I think that would be as close as I get to getting the bone for it. They might run that just so they can admit that, and, you could say you didn't get it from my timeline, but come on. And my big issue was what Tony said to them was he had never seen the documents. Well, he was sent the documents in the same chain I was. So does email in the picture. So, this is what happened. What happened in the council meeting cannot really be separated from everything that came before it, right? The council is not dealing with a resident who simply showed up one night and became inconvenient. They're dealing with someone who already forced them to follow the law. They're already dealing with someone who's beaten them in public records litigation, challenged their unconstitutional gun ordinance, filed documented civil rights complaints, and demanded that the city meet its ADA obligations instead of hiding from them. They're dealing with someone who does not fold under pressure, right? Someone who doesn't just disappear when ignored. That's why their reaction on Monday matters, folks. Only 14 days before this meeting, I gave them that formal ADA Like 2 violation notice documenting their failure to acknowledge or implement accommodations I requested more than a year earlier. The law gave them a duty to respond. The law gave them a duty to correct the harm. The law gave them a duty to stop targeting a disability that they were already aware of. And instead of responding professionally, they walked up into a public meeting and they made a spectacle about everything my notice described. Instead of acknowledging the legal obligations they had ignored, they laughed about device usage. They joked about transparency. And they suggested shutting off camera that the records, these violations, dismiss the residents who depend on that live stream, and ridiculed the very accessibility concerns that they're required to address. This isn't an accident, folks. This is what happened after they received a second notice. This is not a coincidence that the push to eliminate the live stream intensified at the precise moment that the city was confronted with its own non-compliance. When a government is faced with its evidence of its violations, it has two choices: correct course, or it can escalate and dare someone to stop it. Lorraine City Council chooses escalation. They choose defiance. They choose to treat a documented disability as something that can be joked about and a legal notice as something that can be ignored. That'll be lawsuit number 3. The posture on Monday night, their posture was not one of a government confident in its legitimacy, right? It was the posture of a government that knows accountability is coming and is trying to shrink that window through which the public can see it. And the push to eliminate the live stream is not a conversation about efficiency. It's a defensive maneuver, folks. Plain and simple. It's an attempt to dim the lights before the next lawsuit's filed, before the next order arrives, before the next civil rights lawsuit claim forces them to do what they already refused to do voluntarily. And yet, in all of this, one person, one dude in the entire room did understand the legal weight of what was unfolding in front of him. I'll give him that. Law Director Patrick Riley, he repeatedly stepped into the correct misinformation and said, hey, you guys can't do that. To warn against improper reasoning and to remind council that their rules did not override state law or constitutional rights. That night, Riley was the only person who consistently acknowledged the limits of governmental power. And kudos to you, Riley, for that. Well fucking done, man. Everyone give him applause for that. If you watch that meeting, he deserves it. He's the only person that pushed back on the members when they began drifting into this retaliation territory. The only person who recognized the legal exposure that everyone else dismissed as annoyance. Whatever disagreements I have had with his office in the past, the fact remains that Monday night, he understood the fucking message better than any other elected officials he advises. He knew the difference between policy and liability. He knew the difference between governance and impulse. He knew that what some members were proposing was not only improper, but dangerous. I've never once demanded anything beyond what the law requires of me and them. I've asked for accommodations consistent with medical documentation. I've asked for transparency aligned with the Ohio Supreme Court's guidance. I've asked for council meetings to be visible, accessible, and accountable. And I have met repeatedly with retaliation, dismissiveness, and personal hostility. The irony is that they just simply followed the law to begin with. None of this would actually exist. They responded to my ADA request in 24. There'd be no ADA claim in 25. If they complied with the Public Records Act, there'd be no court of claims rulings against them. If they just followed state statute, there would be no gun ordinance lawsuit. And if they'd respected constitutional limits, there would be no civil rights lawsuit. This is in the moment when when accountability in every story, when the facts become too consistent to ignore, folks. That's this moment. The meeting didn't just simply reveal itself and show disagreements. It revealed the culture of a government that no longer recognizes the difference between authority and impunity. It revealed a council that thinks criticism is disorder, transparency is optional, disability is negotiable, and public engagement is just something that they can manage with rules rather than respect. The truth's straightforward. I'm suing them because they created conditions for the lawsuits. I'm challenging their laws because they wrote laws that violate state statute. I'm filing ADA actions because they ignored the written request and then they publicly humiliated the person who made them. I'm documenting everything because that's what you do when you do not control the narrative. The only defense that you have is the truth captured in real time. And that's why these live streams matter. It's not a window into their meetings. It's a mirror held up to their conduct. They want to remove the mirror because they don't like what it reflects. But removing the reflection will not erase the behavior. It'll only confirm it. A council cannot choose to eliminate the camera. They cannot eliminate the record. Wait, they can choose to eliminate the camera, but they can't eliminate the record. They cannot eliminate lawsuits. They cannot eliminate the laws that they've already violated. And they cannot eliminate the reality that every step they take to hide their actions only strengthens the case that they knew were coming, and they were going to do it anyway. This isn't the end of anything, folks. It's the beginning of the chapter that they wrote for themselves. The live stream did not create the problem, it exposed it. And exposure is not silence. It's just one thing that the government's never been able to manage, folks. And I do want to point one thing out, before I close down tonight. They said something real interesting in that meeting. They're setting up to arrest one of us soon. I said it in the story. I'll say it again. Basically, what I'm seeing is Riley straight up said it. No, we set this rule up so there'd be a pathway to prosecution, right? Let that sink in. You know what what he meant was we have to do it just right to arrest somebody, just like we kind of did with Guerin and kind of did apparently with somebody else. And that's key because he wants to set it up right to arrest the citizen. That's their design. They're trying to trap someone. I don't know who that someone would be. You know, me, them, whatever. But the bottom line is that's what they're trying to do. They truly believe that they can find a way, you know, to start using my ADA accommodations and all the things that I preserved, the documentation, the videos, the emails. I made police reports. They're going to try to turn that on me. I've said it since the beginning. They'll try to say I was the one that caused the problem. And that's problematic for them because I have the recordings, the documents, I have everything. And the law's on my side. So just know that if it's not me, next it'll be you. It'll be Jane. It'll definitely be Tia. You know, who's next? Someone cries. Pretty soon they'll just take away speech altogether. And then we will have the perfect union. Everyone will come to Soviet Council, to Leningrad on the Lake. At Leningrad on the Lake, we all take care of each other, except for all of you go work in the coal mines and steel mills while we, the government, sit on our high horses and eat caviar. Anyway, with that, I'm going to let you guys go tonight. Thanks for sticking by tonight. That was our story on the Lorain Council and how horrible that stuff was tonight. There's a lot more to read in the story itself, so check it out. Check out my Substack. Check out my webpage. Check out my YouTube. Check it all out. Like it. Subscribe it. Follow it. If I can get up to 1,000 followers on my YouTube, I might even be able to monetize it. Help a brother out. Anyway, also, you can check it out up here. We do have a little, other one. Wait. There. That you scan that and you can donate to help the cause, keep local journalism alive. In the meantime, Chronicle, I really appreciate you guys redoing my story. Next time, maybe just a bone. That's what I'm saying. Just a bone. I don't need a lot, but a little nod of the hat, tip of the cap. Or you can just post my editorial that I sent in or my little comment to the editor, and that'll show everybody. But anyway, thanks for tuning in tonight, guys. Be lawful, not awful. Lorain, you keep yourself safe and dry out there, and we'll see you guys next time.
Unplug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polished decoys. Broadcasting without permission. We don't ask. We lift the curtain and we drop the mask. Unplug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polished decoys. Broadcasting without permission. We don't ask. We lift the curtain and we drop the mask. Unplug with Nap. Yeah, we cut through the noise. No script, no leash, no polished